Unbelievable secrets revealed. The war of Ishmael's descendants against Israel. Few knew what truly happened that night. In the land where dust met history, shadows loomed in the dark. A flickering lamp could have revealed the treachery of men plotting behind closed doors. What they sought was more than land, it was survival. A legacy steeped in tension and bloodline. The air was thick with whispers. It was the year 2500 BC, in the heart of the Middle East. The Israelites had settled, their dreams of promise twisting like the branches of a gnarled tree. But from the wilderness came Ishmael's descendants, heirs of a bitter lineage, their eyes burning with a fierce resolve. They were driven by ancient prophecies and a longing for vengeance, their battle cries echoing across the barren hills. A mother cradled her child, the boy's eyes wide with fear, sensing the storm brewing. Across the valley, campfires flickered, silhouettes of warriors gathered. They spoke of redemption, of reclaiming what they believed was stolen. What no one could explain was the sudden darkness enveloping the camp, a chill that made breaths catch. Was it merely the night, or something more sinister? Conflicted hearts roamed the land. Allies turned against each other under the weight of uncertainty. The warriors of Ishmael had an oddity, the ability to vanish into shadows, like phantoms on a mission. Murmurs surged among the tribes. Was this an act of the divine, or a trick of the mind fading in the torchlight? With each passing moment, the tension thickened. The Israelites sharpened their swords, steeling themselves for a clash that felt predestined. Yet one lone figure stood apart, a seer with a burden. He felt the tide turning, a sense of calamity on the horizon. His vision was not clear, but one thing haunted him. The echoes of betrayal faintly murmured through dreams laden with fire and smoke. What awaited them in the shadows of night? Would the thirst for vengeance consume them all? Or could a fragile alliance brew amidst centuries of strife? As the moon hung high and the air crackled with impending conflict, one thought lingered just out of reach. How would a single night change the fate of many? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The night deepened, shrouding the valley in an eerie silence that hovered like a heavy fog. The warriors, poised for battle, exchanged glances filled with unsaid words, a mixture of dread and determination swirling in their hearts. The shadows around them whispered secrets of the past, perhaps urging them to recall the blood that had spilled for generations. The stars above seemed to dim, as if even the heavens were holding their breath in anticipation, and the stillness. The seer, whose name was Eliab, stood atop a small rise, separated from the throng below. His mind raced with visions he could not fully grasp. He had long been a man of faith, guided by dreams that often haunted him, but tonight was different. Tonight, he felt a powerful presence, a deep vibration in the air, as if the weight of history itself pressed against his shoulders. Prophecies whispered among the ancients suddenly surged within him like a tide, compelling him forward. Eliab, came the soft voice of Miriam, a woman of wisdom and fierce spirit. What do you see? Is it our end or a new beginning? Her presence was a balm, grounding the seer in the tempest of his thoughts. He turned to her, the flickering torchlight casting shadows across her face, revealing the signs of toil and hope intertwined. I see a reckoning, Miriam, he spoke, his voice barely rising above the gentle rustle of leaves. But I cannot see who will stand together when dawn breaks. Darkness breeds conflict, but it also brings clarity. What does this night seek to reveal? Miriam pondered his words, her gaze shifting to the gathering warriors. The descendants of Ishmael were fierce and resolute, but bloodlines did not guarantee loyalty. Deep inside her heart was the question that gnawed at her soul. Could they seek reconciliation amidst the shadows of their forefathers' hatred? As Eliab continued to watch, a sharp cry pierced the stillness, echoing across the valley. A signal, a declaration. The warriors shifted on their feet, feeling the electric charge of anticipation. With each second that passed, they could taste the tension like brine on their lips. The flickering fires painted their faces with flickers of hope and despair. But Eliab sensed something deeper. From the darkness beyond, a strange presence began to emerge. A figure cloaked in obscurity, its face obscured, approached through the haze, seemingly unaffected by the tension that danced in the air. Immediately, both soldiers and tribesmen turned their attention, instinctively sensing the weight of this newcomer. "Why do you come here when the night is heavy with strife?" Eliab called out, uncertainty threading through his words. "State your purpose." The figure stopped just beyond the firelight, a silhouette against the stars. Paused, as if considering its response. The valley fell silent, all eyes upon the stranger who carried the burden of an untold story. "I come bearing a message." The figure spoke, its voice both solemn and commanding. "This night holds the power to shape hearts and mend broken lines. You seek to destroy, to reclaim what was lost. Yet hear this: what you long for may not be what you need." A murmur swept through the crowd, their collective breath catching. The sentiment sparked questions in their hearts. Was vengeance now the only thread binding them together? Or was there a more profound possibility awaiting in the folds of the night? As Eliab stood on the rise, he felt an aching heaviness in his chest. What truth lay behind the shadow of that enigmatic figure? Could the warriors find a path towards peace? Or was conflict etched too deeply into the fabric of their peoples? The hour grew late, and the shroud of night held its secrets well. For all the fears and desires tangled within their midst, one thing remained undeniable. There in the twilight, an unimaginable choice awaited them. Would they dare to accept the unknown, or would they cling to the familiar chains of enmity? As the moon cast its pale light, Eliab pondered that question, unresolved yet crucial. What would it take for hearts entrenched in pain to truly hear a different song? The tension in the valley thickened, a palpable silence settling like a heavy blanket over the warriors. Eliab's heart raced as the cloaked figure stood immobile, where clarity seemed entwined with shadow. The murmurs among the assembled men grew uneasy. Their trust was a fragile thread, strung between historical divisions. "What message do you bring, traveler?" Miriam interjected, stepping forward with the courage of one who knew that silence often breeds fear. She cast a wary glance around at the ranks of warriors, catching the glint of swords half drawn, ready for conflict. "Speak, and we shall listen. But let wisdom perish not in our eagerness for blood. There is no peace without understanding, and no truth without facing the darkness within." The figure replied, its voice echoing with an ancient resonance that seemed to rattle the very stones beneath their feet. "You gather as children of the same earth. Your bloodlines pulse with the memories of your forebears. Yet, do you pause to reflect upon their burdens, their grief?" As the figure's words unfolded, a hush fell over the men, the warriors' hardened expressions softening in the face of such wisdom. Was it possible that within their fervor for vengeance, they had forgotten the ancestral roots binding them to one another? Eliab felt the pulse of the land beneath him, a reminder of long-forgotten ties that held deeper meanings than mere conflict. "What do you suggest?" A bold voice cried out from the crowd, a man with a prominent scar running down his cheek. "How can we heal wounds unrecognized? You speak of understanding, yet our histories bleed together in war. Can words put an end to what blood has begun? Words alone may not heal, yet there is a power in the recounting of stories." The figure replied, gesturing as if to encompass the entire valley. "Gather your hearts, share your tales of loss, of betrayal, of sorrow. Let the air be filled with the truths you carry. Only then may you glimpse the chains binding you, forged by shadows of resentment and misunderstanding. You must listen not with the intent to retort, but with the humility to hear." Eliab contemplated this ancient directive, the wisdom nestled within. There was a history deeper than feuds, a legacy of shared joys and griefs that could illuminate the path for all. He felt a quiet revolutionary zeal rising in his spirit, a reminder of the power of vulnerability amidst adversity. But how could he spark this endeavor among warriors bred for battle, men accustomed to responding to the clash of steel? As if sensing his doubts, the figure's head tilted slightly, revealing just a flash of luminescent eyes, old yet full of life. The night draws on, and soon the dawn may reveal how fickle the hearts can be when not tempered by understanding. Without confronting the stories that dwell within, you risk just exchanging one cycle of hardship for another. Will you gather and listen to construct instead of destroy? Miriam, her heart moved deeply, voiced what many were beginning to feel. Let us bear witness. We are more than the war cries that echo in the night. We carry the hopes of our children and the dreams of our ancestors. To share our stories may reveal fragments of light even in this looming darkness. It was then that a shift occurred among the warriors. Hesitant gestures turned to nods of agreement. They were not simply adversaries. They were kin who had wandered off the path, lost in a wilderness of anger and defiance. Eliab, feeling the weight of possibility thrust upon him, stepped forward boldly. Then let us create a circle of stories, a gathering where our pain can find its voice, and our hearts may find rest from the burdens we have carried so long. Perhaps in this open space, reconciliation can bloom like the dawn that always follows the longest night. The soldiers murmured amongst themselves, an undercurrent of curiosity and reticence woven through their ranks. Yet something about Eliab's fervor resonated within them, igniting a flicker of courage to explore an unfamiliar path. As the figure began to step back into the shadows, it left Eliab pondering a truth that lingered unspoken. What lay within the tales untold? Could they truly unearth a peace that had eluded them for so long? And could the act of sharing transform centuries of enmity into an offering of hope? The impending dawn edged nearer, but the answers remained as elusive as the stars beginning to fade from the sky. The night deepened, swaddling the valley in a blanket of uncertainty, yet punctuated by the burgeoning sense of purpose ignited by Eliab's call. Tentatively, the warriors began to gather. Each man, hardened by conflict, held some piece of a shared history hidden within a story not yet told. Seated in a rough circle, the men exchanged anxious glances as the air filled with a palpable anticipation. Eliab found himself acutely aware of the often missed humanity in each warrior surrounding him. Stories lurked beneath the skin, waiting for acknowledgement not as instruments of division, but as threads to mend a frayed tapestry of kinship. Miriam, Eliab turned to her. Will you be the first? Your strength seems boundless, yet it often blooms from hidden wounds. With a hesitant breath, she began. I come from a lineage of pain, tales of longing woven with dreams dashed upon the rocks of betrayal. My father lost his brother in the fray, a loss not merely of flesh but of hope. And in that killing, our family splintered, and the hate grew roots. I still feel the ache of that grief, that void where love was meant to thrive. Her words echoed deeper than mere anguish. They resonated with the collective sorrow of many, unearthing the shared heritage of loss that bound each warrior present. As she spoke, their eyes softened. Unspoken guilt surged through the ranks for every life taken that had once been a life cherished. Eliab nodded solemnly, feeling emboldened by her honesty. I stand among you with a heart burdened by my own family's shadows. My father was relentless in his pursuit of vengeance against those who wronged us, blurring the line between justice and revenge. But in seeking blood, we neglected the blood of each other, our kin from generations long past. Others began to join in. Hesitance gave way to a reluctant surge of confessions. An older warrior shared the tale of his mother who mourned for a brother taken by conflict, echoing Miriam's themes of lost love and regret. Another spoke of children left fatherless, haunted by the specter of violence that loomed over their upbringing as voices melded into a tapestry of testimonies. Eliab began to perceive the intricate connections intertwined through the pain, a complex web of grievances and shared histories echoed across generations. It became evident that the fierce loyalty each warrior felt toward their tribes had morphed into an isolation born of grief. Battling against a tide of invisible sorrows, the cloaked figure, watching from the fringes, nodded in satisfaction though neither spoke nor revealed more. Eliab felt the weight of unseen eyes, the weight of connection solidifying as the stories flowed and mingled, buffering the atmosphere thick with grief with warmth, revealing hidden truths long buried. Look around, brothers. A voice cried out, young and filled with hope. In our stories, we see reflections of our own heartaches. What if this suffering shared could transform the very essence of our struggle? I never realized that your pain mirrors my own. What if we are not enemies but rather a collective seeking solace? The group stirred with newfound understanding, a shifting that transcended mere words. They were warriors but also mourners, guardians of heritage and memory battling against a tide of recognition they had long sought to bury. Yet as the last echoes of shared tales dissolved into the night, one question loomed like the dawn light flirting with the edges of the horizon. Could acknowledging each other's truths be enough to unshackle the centuries of enmity? Could understanding foster a love that had been drowned in fear and hatred? As the first glimmers of day began to break over the valley, Eliab felt a tension thrumming within the thrill of possibility intertwined with uncertainty. The dawn was not merely the end of the night, nor the victory of light over darkness, but perhaps the very beginning of a deeper reckoning. Would they hold onto the wisdom of these narratives, or would they allow the ghosts of their past to march them once more into battle? The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows that danced upon the earth, and with it came an awakening of spirit. Eliab and the warriors sat silent, each man wrestling with a fresh awareness, a dawning realization that the shared stories had changed them in some way. The air vibrated with questions that seemed to press in from all sides, as if the sunlight itself challenged them to confront what lay ahead. Eliab turned to Miriam, who sat deep in thought, her eyes reflecting the early light. "What now, Miriam?" he asked gently. "How do we rise from these ashes of sorrow?" She paused, her mind swirling with the weight of their shared confessions. "In my father's stories, I learned that sorrow can either bind us in chains or fashion a bridge. We stand at the brink, Eliab. If we seek to understand rather than to avenge, perhaps we can begin to build that bridge." Her voice, which moments ago trembled with vulnerability, now possessed a quiet strength. The murmurs of agreement lifted from the group as more men began to nod, stirred by the thought of transformation. Yet beneath the hope, a sheen of apprehension lingered. One of the elder warriors, who had remained quiet until now, shifted uneasily. His memories locked away for years began to flood forward, and he broke the stillness. "Do we dare to believe that reconciliation is possible?" he murmured, his voice thick with skepticism. "Our forefathers taught us to trust no one from the line of Ishmael. Generations have been forged in the fires of animosity. How then do we surmount this? It is easy to share sorrow, yet the toll of our blood remains heavy on our hearts." These words hung in the air like an ominous cloud, stirring an undercurrent of old resentments that threatened to drown out the fragile hope. Eliab felt the tension ripple among the men, and he understood it for what it was: fear. This was a fear not just of the present but of the history they carried like shackles in their bloodlines. "What if this burden does not have to weigh us down?" Eliab proposed, his voice steady yet questioning. "What if we sought counsel beyond ourselves? The elders who witnessed the beginning of our strife may contain the keys to our liberation." The warriors blinked at each other, surprised by the suggestion but intrigued. "Is there not wisdom in seeking those who remember the old tales?" one asked. "Those who carried their own scars yet strived for peace." Miriam nodded thoughtfully. "It is true. The wisdom of ages past is often obscured by the fog of our present grievances. Perhaps we should venture beyond these hills and seek the voices of those who have seen both blood and blessing." Eliab felt a stirring in his heart. The thought of a journey ignited a yearning deep within his soul. But another shadow crossed his mind. And if those voices bear truths we are not prepared to hear? He couldn't overlook the risks. In seeking resolution, would the elders simply amplify the existing divide or provide a bridge to understanding? As the group floated the idea, excitement twirled with trepidation in the cooler morning air. Yet just when the joy of potential blossomed, a dark realization seeped in. An urgency gnawed at Eliab. The specter of battle still loomed, its heartbeat relentless in the distance. The stirrings among the tribes had not diminished. There was a life of conflict pulsing beyond their tent. "Brothers, we may stand on the precipice of change, but we need to move swiftly," he urged. Can we afford the luxury of deliberation when war drums beat ceaselessly? With that, the weight of their shared burden transformed into the flame of a resolve as they prepared to seek guidance. Eliab couldn't shake the sensation that this was not merely a quest for information but a dawning pilgrimage of healing. Would they find answers in the ancients who had once sworn oaths of allegiance to one another? Could their quest unveil more than just truths, perhaps even the roots of their shared humanity? The path ahead remained cloaked in uncertainty, a wilderness of possibility awaiting their steps. Eliab gained strength from the collective heart of the men gathered around him, but also knew that the answers they sought might just unlock an even deeper enigma. What if the wisdom of the elders carried not only the burdens of the past but secrets to a future they had yet to imagine? And could that wisdom reveal a deeper truth about their fate than they had ever dared to consider? As the sun climbed higher, casting its warmth over the land, the warriors gathered their resolve. Eliab outlined their plans. They would venture to the Valley of Memories, a sacred ground where traditions met and where former elders often spoke to the winds of change. The stories of their ancestors lived there, echoing in the whispers of the grass and rustling branches. A palpable anticipation filled the air, mingled with the fragrance of earth after the dawn's first light. Miriam, carrying the weight of her father's tales, led the way with Eliab at her side. Each step felt heavy with purpose yet buoyed by the shared hope of healing. The companions walked in silence, but their minds churned with possibilities, weaving thoughts of both apprehension and expectancy as they descended into the valley. The landscape opened like a tapestry woven with the threads of time. Wildflowers dotted the fields, splashes of color against the greens and browns, and they reminded Eliab of the multitude of stories that had blossomed from strife and joy alike. Here, the histories of their peoples mingled, creating a complex fabric of connection that both fascinated and frightened him. When they reached the designated gathering place, an ancient oak stood sentinel, its broad trunk thick with history. It was here that the elders had come for generations, where laughter and tears intertwined, filled with wisdom born of experience. To the group, this tree was more than an oak. It was a testament to survival and resilience, the embodiment of their intertwined fates. The warriors approached with reverence, calling forth the spirits of the ancestors as if it were a prayer. Eliab stepped forward, feeling an urge to lay bare his heart. "We seek guidance," he declared, his voice resonating with unyielding sincerity. "Our peoples have fought for so long, yet we stand on this brink, yearning for understanding. We have come to listen to the stories that may guide us back to the path of peace and unity." As they waited, time seemed to stretch, the air thick with expectation. Shadows played at the edges, whispering secrets long forgotten. And then, an elder approached his gate slow and measured, eyes glimmering with the weight of many moons, children of the promise. He began, his voice like gravel mixed with honey. "The road you tread is fraught with echoes of the past. You carry the scars of your forebears, and yet you seek to shift the course of destiny. To do so, you must be prepared to unearth truths buried deep in the soil of history, truths that may challenge your perceptions." Eliab felt a shiver at the elder's words. What truths eluded them? What secrets lay dormant, waiting to rise from the depths, to both uplift and shatter their understanding? Long ago, a covenant was forged, the elder continued, his gaze penetrating. A bond that promised fulfillment, steadfastness, yet it was fraught with misunderstanding and betrayal. The children of Ishmael, the children of Isaac, both destined for greatness, yet torn asunder by the weight of expectations. Miriam, enraptured, leaned closer. What were the terms of this covenant? What wisdom can we harvest from the wreckage of its legacy? The elder smiled, a wistful twist of his lips, and gestured to the ground beneath them. "You stand upon sacred earth, marked by the footprints of ancestors who dreamed of unity amid division. But deliverance requires more than mere yearning. It demands courage to face the legacy of pain. Are you prepared to hear how love and fear shaped your lineage?" Eliab's heart raced. He understood that the true challenge was not merely to seek counsel but to reckon with the emotions that haunted their families, the fears that were ensconced in their bones. Would they emerge transformed, or emerge embittered? The murmurs of the companions grew louder, rippling with a combination of eagerness and trepidation as they awaited more. Yet, as the elder prepared to share the first tale, Eliab couldn't shake a haunting question from his consciousness. What if the answers brought forth not the expected healing, but instead the courageous choice to face the shadows lurking within their own hearts, ultimately revealing a truth that challenged everything they thought they knew about themselves and each other? As the last notes of the elder's words lingered in the air, a hush fell over the warriors, their breaths synchronized as they awaited the unfolding of history's embrace. The elder touched the earth gently, brushing aside the wildflowers that danced with the breeze, and began his tale. Each word poured from a well of aching wisdom at a time long ago. When the stars above shone brighter and dreams walked among men, a promise was bestowed upon two brothers. Their names were Isaac and Ishmael, born of different mothers yet destined to be intertwined by fate. The covenant spoken over their lives was meant to illuminate their paths, but darkness often shadows the brightest of destinies. Isaac, the child of laughter, was cherished in his father's arms. He carried the weight of blessings, yet felt the burden of expectation. Ishmael, with his mother Hagar, learned quickly that survival demanded strength. He too bore the legacy of a promise, yet often stood in the shadows, yearning for recognition and love that appeared to elude him. Eliab focused on the elder, his heart aching as he recognized the fractures that lingered in their own families, elements echoing back across the years, where resentment brewed next to love, faith coiling around doubt that in the fertile lands, strife and heartache blossomed as abundantly as the crops. The seed of rivalry was planted, watered by jealousy and fear. The winds of misunderstanding rustled through the valleys and mountains, creating echoes that continued to reverberate in the hearts of their descendants. The elder noted, his voice grave. Miriam felt a stirring within. Her gaze wandered to her companions, and she saw reflections of confusion and unrest mirrored in their eyes. But what of reconciliation? She asked, her voice soft but steady. Was there no chance for healing between their descendants? The elder met her earnest gaze, a flicker of hope igniting in his own eyes. Healing requires more than desire. It requires vulnerability and the willingness to confront the past, he replied. Even in the hearts of those who felt wronged, the potential for restoring what was broken lies dormant, waiting for brave souls to awaken it. But beware, the truth is often clad in garments that feel foreign. Uncomfortable as each word fell, Eliab felt the gravity of their purpose expanding. They were not merely warriors gathering strength for protection. They were seekers of wisdom, faced with the burden of their lineage. What must we do? He asked, glancing toward the ancient oak, imagining all the tales it had witnessed. You must dare to unveil the roots of your fear and your love. Stand before each other, stripped of the armor that has shielded your wounds. The cycle of pain can be broken only when both sides desire to understand rather than judge, to listen rather than speak, the elder imparted, his voice resolute. A chilling wind swept through the valley, carrying with it whispers of countless ancestors who had treaded these grounds. The companions found themselves bound by a shared urgency. Eliab's thoughts danced quickly, grappling with the enormity of unveiling truths. Would their desire for unity lead to unearthing painful memories? Would they be bold enough to face the wrath of history, uncover the wounds that still echoed with grief? What are we to expect after we delve into these stories? Miriam inquired, her brow furrowing in thought. The unexpected, the elder responded enigmatically. Understanding may transform anger into empathy, yet it may also bring forth guilt, shame, or sorrow. The human heart can be both a garden of love and a field of thorned brambles. Ensure you are prepared to tread both carefully as the elder's words washed over them. The group exchanged silent vows, a commitment to journey deeper into the tempest that lay ahead. A stirring of courage coiled in Eliab's heart, a flame igniting within a promise, perhaps, that they would embrace the shadows as steadfastly as they cherished the light. The sun dipped lower in the sky, sending tendrils of evening light weaving through the ancient branches. As darkness approached, Eliab grappled with another question that had formed in the silence of his introspection. What if the path to healing demanded more than their bravery? What if it required them to confront not just the tribulations between their peoples but those deep-seated fears that resided within their very souls, forever shaping their identities and destinies? As dusk cloaked the valley in a shroud of quiet contemplation, Eliab and his companions gathered around the flickering flames that had begun to dance in the center of their assembly. The air crackled with potential, thickening with unspoken questions and the weight of history. The elder's voice still echoed in their minds, urging them toward a path less traveled, a path of vulnerability and reconciliation. Miriam, who had been gazing at the flames, broke the silence. Through the tales of our ancestors, we stand not only as descendants of Isaac and Ishmael but also as bearers of their stories. What if each narrative we uncover reveals a facet of truth buried beneath the layers of our history? Eliab pondered her words. Is there a chance that within those narratives lies a key to understanding? Perhaps something that can unravel the threads of mistrust binding our peoples? His heart raced at the thought, a flicker of optimism igniting within him as the fire crackled. The elder turned, his face illuminated by the warm glow. The stories we carry are like a tapestry, woven with threads of joy and sorrow, light and dark. To seek the truth is to unearth not only the blessings but also the burdens. Each thread has a purpose, and even the most painful stories can reveal beauty amid the struggle. The companions nodded, acknowledging the truth of his words. With each tale shared in their circle, they would not merely recount history, but rather weave a new narrative rooted in shared humanity rather than division. But the enormity of the task settled upon them like an unwieldy cloak. In the midst of this reflection, a sudden rustle in the underbrush caught Eliab's attention. Out from the shadows emerged an elderly man, weathered by the trials of time, his eyes gleaming with wisdom and warmth. He moved quietly yet purposefully toward them, his presence commanding respect. "May I join your circle?" the man inquired, his voice a gentle reminder of ages past. "Of course," Eliab responded, gesturing to the space beside him. "What brings you to us under the veil of night?" The elder smiled knowingly, as if he held secrets that danced like fireflies beneath his skin. "I am but a traveler of tales, seeking truths that dwell in the hearts of men. I have witnessed the fraying of bonds between families, communities, and nations. Yet, hope is a flame that flickers in the hearts of those brave enough to confront the shadows." As he settled by the fire, Eliab felt a stirring curiosity. "Do you believe that our pursuit of understanding can indeed mend what has been broken?" The man nodded, his gaze steady. "There exists a sacredness in truth. When shared among those willing to listen, it becomes a bridge. You must be ready, however, for not all tales are sweet. Some contain bitterness that must be swallowed whole before any healing can begin." Miriam's eyes sparkled with intrigue. "What tales have you carried with you? What truths lie hidden in the folds of your experience?" The man leaned closer, the firelight casting dancing shadows across his face. "I have walked through the lands of your ancestors, seen their struggles and triumphs. I have also witnessed the grief of separation and the scars left in the wake of misunderstanding. There exists a tale of an ancient meeting, a moment where the descendants of both brothers came together, not as enemies, but as seekers of peace." His words drew the attention of every member in the circle, an electric anticipation sparking in the air. "What happened during this moment?" Eliab pressed, his pulse quickening. "It was a time filled with fear, much like now. Those gathered shared their stories, wounds laid bare, forgiveness sought, and a bond slowly forged through the cauldron of collective pain. They found commonality in their suffering, a recognition of shared humanity. Yet, whether that moment of unity led to enduring peace remains a question cloaked in the mists of time. The crackling fire and the evening stillness cocooned them as they wrestled with this revelation. Eliab felt a tightening in his chest, a sense of urgency mingled with trepidation. What if their journey toward unveiling truth would mirror that ancient meeting? Would they emerge as healers or witnesses to despair? As the stars began to sprinkle the night sky, he turned to the elder who had brought them together. "Is it enough to share tales? Or must we also be prepared to bear the consequences of what those tales reveal?" The distant sound of night creatures stirred, echoing his question into the vastness of the night. And as Eliab settled deeper into the contemplative silence of the moment, he pondered what other truths awaited their discovery, lingering like unquenched embers in the depths of their shared history. Would their quest for understanding lead them to extreme vulnerability or build an unbreakable bridge toward reconciliation? As the flames danced and stories hung in the still air, Eliab's heart swelled with an unnameable ache. The words of the traveler echoed in his mind, intertwining with the weight of their shared history. They stood at a precipice, each moment imbued with the potential for healing or deepening the chasm between them. The elder who had joined them leaned back, the firelight reflecting off his face like a flickering shadow of the past. To forge a path to reconciliation, you must ask deeper questions than those that merely scratch the surface of your fears, he advised, his voice carrying a cadence reminiscent of the ancient storytellers. What do you truly believe lies at the heart of your divides? Miriam, emboldened by the presence of this wise soul, broke her silence. Perhaps the heart of our divide stems from the narratives we carry. But how do we even begin to confront the stories we've been told? The elder regarded her with knowing eyes. When narratives are handed down without scrutiny, they become shackles that tether your spirit to the past. Only by questioning their validity can you reclaim your agency. Are you prepared to face the truths that may not align with the beliefs you hold dear? Eliab shifted uneasily, contemplating what it meant to unravel his lineage's stories. Is it possible that the stories told about Isaac and Ishmael do not define us? That perhaps we can choose a new narrative? Indeed, the elder replied, his tone firm yet gentle. But bear in mind, the quest will not be easy. There will be moments of disillusionment, perhaps even anger. Remember, the fire that warms can also burn. Then let us begin, Eliab declared, drawing strength from Miriam's gaze and the traveler's unyielding wisdom. What must we recount to transform fear into understanding? The man took a breath, drawing in the raw night air, thick with anticipation. Let me share a tale from the past moment when the tribes of your ancestors stood face to face, hearts exposed, driven by the desire to speak truth over silence. In that encounter, they discovered the consequences of their divisions were birthed not from disagreement, but from a lack of empathy. The group crowded closer, heartbeats echoing in concert with the crackling fire. The elder wove his words from a distant time. A great council was called, and those descended from both brothers came forth, each carrying their burdens. They spoke not only of their pain but also of their joys and fears. It was in that shared vulnerability that they unearthed a shared dream of vision of peace for their children. What did they find? Miriam asked, her voice barely a whisper. They found themselves reflected in the eyes of one another. Each tale echoed their own, no longer merely stories of them and us, but a revelation of the human condition of longing, loss, and hope, the elder recounted. And yet, even with such illumination, the road remained fraught with challenges. Those who met to heal were not free from the shadows of their past. Eliab felt a knot tighten in his chest. Then it was not the act of sharing alone that created unity. They needed to confront their own biases, too. Precisely, the elder affirmed, his eyes glistening like stars against the night. They unearthed truths that had lain dormant for too long. Some found it painful, others redemptive. All were changed. Their journey became a testament. Transformation requires courage to face not just the other but oneself and to sift through the ashes of old stories. As silence enveloped their circle, the deeper implications of what they had just heard began to settle in. The tension in Eliab's heart surged, followed by a wave of fear. What if their effort to reconcile could illuminate not only paths to peace, but also buried resentments long forgotten? What truths could emerge that might split them apart rather than unite them? He looked around at the faces of his companions, hearts hopeful yet apprehensive. What if, in seeking to share our stories, we awaken wounds that feel too raw to touch? In that moment of vulnerability, the question hung heavily in the air, much like the thick scent of wood smoke infused with the night. As the shadows deepened and the stars shimmered brighter, Eliab felt both the tremors of fear and flickers of belief in reconciliation. Would their courage to confront the narratives of ancient rivalries pave the way to healing, or did it risk igniting a conflict anew? In this dance between light and dark, he sensed the possibility of forgotten truths, waiting to be revealed beneath layers of history. Can we bear the revelations lurking in the depths of our shared past? As dawn reluctantly surrendered to the depths of the night, Eliab stood at the precipice of transformation, their stories woven together like the fragile threads of a tapestry. The air pulsed with potential, charged with the essence of life that holds both freedom and burden, echoing through the hearts of the warriors gathered. The failures and triumphs of their ancestors lingered like a soft whisper, tantalizing them with the promise of redemption and the heaviness of truth all at once as the flickering flames cast ethereal shadows. Eliab determined to break the silence that had settled upon them like a delicate gauze. Let us embrace the power of our stories, brothers and sisters, the burdens and beauty they carry. Each tale we share is not merely a shadow. It is a fragment of the boundless light that can guide us forward. With his heart racing, Eliab turned to the elder whose stories had nestled in their hearts. Elder, wisdom has never been so poignant, yet fear still tangles our hopes. Will you guide us in unearthing these buried truths? How do we process that which weighs heavy on our families still? The elder nodded, unraveling a gentle smile that seemed to reflect countless years of remembrance, and said, "In truth, you must confront not merely the stories, but the ghosts that haunt your hearts. Tell the tales you were taught, the narratives embedded in your psyche, but also the unspoken pain, the fears that pulse beneath the skin." One by one, the warriors began to unfold the threads of their lives, revealing tales both tender and haunting. A young man rose, trembling at first, but soon his voice grew steady. "I recall my grandmother, who spoke of a brother lost in conflict, a young life traded for hate. I grew up hearing of the sweetness of his laughter and the sorrow etched into our family. Feels like I carry his absence, too. That weight has become bitter roots within me, breeding rage against those I have never met." As he spoke, the air thickened with recognition, many among the gathered remembering similar sorrows mirrored in their own histories. They were not merely warriors standing against one another. They were kindred souls sharing in the burdens of love and loss. Miriam stepped forward, emboldened by the moment, her heart aflame. "In my youth, I harbored resentment for what was said about the children of Ishmael. But those words, once bitter while spilling from my lips, now reveal themselves as chains binding my heart. Can we not reclaim our voice and shed this anger?" A rich wave of murmured agreement washed over them. The murmurs carried the weight of shared pain but also the exhilaration of potential release. The flicker of unity seemed to grow brighter as they exchanged glances filled with uncharted understanding. Each warrior, despite the looming shadows, could finally sense a deeper yearning. How could they dismantle hatred when the chains of sorrow were still so closely wound? A warrior with rugged hands and a softened gaze spoke next. "Can we forgive those who have wronged us, even if they dwell beyond these shadows? My father lost everything in a skirmish over land, and my heart has seethed with vengeance. Yet, as I listen to your tales, I realize my rage is a reflection of my own fear." The gathering nodded, feeling a chorus rise. The words resonated deeper than the individual, echoing like a hymn of vulnerability. Then came a voice from the Frangiza woman cloaked in isolation, her presence a gentle reminder of the importance of every story. "I, too, carry the weight of our past, yet I have also borne witness to the blossoms of understanding emerging from the cracks. The moment my heart began to forgive was when I understood that in every struggle lies the shadow of beauty waiting to emerge." Her eyes glistened with shared tears, and each word swept through the gathering like an earnest prayer. Eliab could feel Ida burgeoning awareness embracing them all, their grief transforming into a raw, radiant truth. The flames flickered, casting a light that illuminated their collective brokenness, and he saw within it the power to breathe new life into generation-old grudges. "The past need not define what we choose to become," Eliab declared, his voice firm yet filled with tenderness. "Just as the dawn erases the night, so too can our desire for understanding eclipse the divisions forged by our pain. Perhaps behind every sword drawn against us lies an opportunity to understand one another, and thereby mend what has been so cruelly torn apart." The fire crackled in response. As if in agreement, harnessing their renewed commitment to transformation. Eliab turned once more to the elder, seeking the guiding wisdom released through their shared revelations. Would it be prudent to learn the truths our ancestors buried, to embrace what awaits us on the road ahead? Do they not say that healing flows from the depths of truth? The elder inclined his head solemnly. Wisdom often resides in paradox. Embrace both what is painful and what speaks of love. As you gather the courage to unveil secrets long tucked away, remember that the journey may not unfold in linear fashion. Hearts heal in their own time. Seek truth, but be ready to stand in the discomfort of it as the sun peeked over the horizon, casting golden beams upon the land that had witnessed so much conflict. Eliab felt the weight of his ancestors watching, urging them toward this uncharted path. A choice lay before them: would they confront the fabric lining their pasts to weave a future brighter than the sun that now ascended? Each warrior felt the tremor of agreement ripple through the assembly, igniting flames of hope and conviction. Yet with it, the acknowledged specter of necessity. The work ahead would demand perseverance, humility, and compassion. I propose a pact, Miriam suggested, her voice cutting through the crisp morning air. Let us gather more than stories. Let us gather the remnants of our souls, creating an unbreakable bond forged through understanding. We walk this path together in steadfast unity, illuminating our diverse histories to rebuild the sacred connection lost among us. In the sharing of our burdens, we shall be released from the traps of the past. Brothers and sisters stepped back, contemplating her words, the gravity thereof tenderly rippling between them. In those moments, the bonds of shared suffering transformed into threads of unyielding commitment, stitching together hearts once cloaked in animosity. As the dawn light bloomed over the horizon, casting away their fears as the morning dew kissed the land, Eliab took a deep breath, feeling the vibrancy of possibility intertwining with their oath of understanding. They stood resolute, prepared to brave the storms of the past while nurturing the seedlings of hope that lay captivated within each heart. And thus, with the sun heralding the dawn of a new legacy, Eliab sensed that this was not simply a convergence of two peoples, but rather the beginnings of transformation, a commitment to weave a shared narrative that would echo through the ages. In the hearts of those present flickered a powerful revelation. Every story shared from that day forth would bear witness not merely to their lineage, but to the timeless struggle for peace and understanding that transcended the shadows of resentment. As the world awoke anew, the promise rose with the soon a hopeful reminder that from the depths of darkness, where history once held them captive, they had chosen to forge a future ablaze with light, love, and the undeniable strength found in embracing their shared humanity.